Hello everybody, and it's here, and this is my first Blender video, so I was quite amazed looking at this new feature at Blender 2.83a Alpha, the clothing brush, so I decided to do a two-part series where I did the prop, the skull, and then did the clothing. So if you're only interested in the clothing brush, you can just skip it to the second video in the series. Alright, so I start here with just a sphere, icosphere, and I'm not really a Blender guru, so I'm still beginning with Blender tools. I've been tagging around and playing around with Blender for the last year. I found it for myself, and I would really recommend it to others. Is if you are switching from other software and you've done any kind of sort of sculpting, so ZBrush or 3D Code or any other software you're using, I would recommend you to start learning Blender using the sculpting tools, because I feel like sculpting is really more about your artistic skills and less about your technical stuff. So while you're sculpting, you will be using the traditional tools which every software has. Even Maya has the same tool set as here, and then while you're doing this, you will be kind of getting used to it, and you will be just googling all this stuff like, oh, how do I change that button, how do I change this, how do I switch from this to that, and you will naturally fairly slowly like get some knowledge, and you won't have to learn like too much, but you have to like organically get used to the interface and all that stuff. So here I'm using the hook brush and the snake hook, and this brush I kind of use probably like 80% of the time to doing the skull. And you can see it right. I turned on Dyntopo, dynamical topology, at the detail size at 8 pixels. So every time I move this hook brush, it resamples everything to to that kind of scale of polygons. So if you it's like pretty much remeshing on a fly, or like a ZBrush Dynamesh. Essentially, it allows you to like essentially, like with the skull, I have these holes, right? So I'm drawing the skull bone and cheekbone, and I needed something that would kind of remesh the mesh and then make it one solid piece. So that's where the Dyntopo came in, or Dyntopo. I feel like generally talking about sculpting side, Blender compared to other softwares is it's still not that like I have a fairly powerful computer, but and here, by the way, I did a remesh modifier, and so I was able, because I think I had some kind of issue with connecting this to past the cheekbone and the skull, so I did remesh modifier, and it kind of remeshed everything and connected everything. So what I was saying that ZBrush definitely can hold a way higher poly count, probably like 10 times more at least, easy. 3D code, my favorite 3D code is as well. You can able to hold a much higher poly count. So if you are doing something like fairly isolated like this, and you don't have much of trouble, but if I had to really go into a detail and do a skull at, I don't know, 3 million tries for this skull, I would have been in a lot of trouble. And yeah, actually, by the way, my apologies for a bit of a low quality of this recording. I think I overcompressed it a little bit, but everything is still visible. It's running at about 4x speed. So the next part was done at 3x speed, but this one was just mostly sculpting. And sculpting for the main part is pretty boring. I do have like photo reference on my right on my second monitor. I'm looking at a lot of that stuff because Skull itself is really quite complex structure, and you can't really do it without having a lot of reference to look at. And you can see I'm still using the snake hook. And it's kind of, I think, my style. I prefer to use the move brush, and I either use ZBrush or 3D Code. I still just use the move brush. Just feel more comfortable about it. Here, I even cut out some of the parts of the video. It was probably like 2 hours. I mean, uncut edit. I mean, like in a real time speed. That's kind of still too boring to look at. Things I like about Blender is like I don't have any problem with interface. I like the shading in the viewport; it's really quite cool, and I like this space bar search. Like this is really amazing. Like that's stuff really so easy when you just press space bar and type in a command. Talking about the overall speed of sculpting here, I was also told that Linux, if you use Blender on Linux system, it's running much faster. So I will definitely install Linux. It's like I had so many calls about Linux to get it out finally, and I think this was like my last call to get Blender running on Linux and see how it performs there. They say it's like at least 30% increase, or maybe even 50% increase in speed. Though I do suffer here when I like add, for example, a subdivision modifier, and if I increase a model which had like 300,000 triangles and to 1 million, it's like it freezes up for like a minute or two. When I was doing the clothing, it would freeze up for, I'm not joking, I'm not joking, but it would freeze up for like 15 minutes, 10 minutes. I'll like have to do something else while it was doing that, or sometimes you have to kill Blender and do something gentler. Like modeling the skull, I was pretty surprised how thin bones are. Like I didn't even get the thinness of the bones in the end, and but it was really an exercise. I didn't want to spend like a couple of days modeling just the skull, which you can easily do if you want to get all the details in. And you can, if you start using like Dyntopo in a smart way, so you start to add wrinkles and remeshing in the parts where you only need to remesh. You can add a lot of detail here, still not compromising the speed of sculpting. Right, so here I use an inflate brush or expand brush. They all like have different names, different softwares, and that had Dyntopo activated, and that successfully like remeshed some of the funny mesh parts I had near that end of the cheekbone, and added the ear channel using this snake code. Sometimes I'm still a little bit don't really understand like how the dynamic topology works, because I can have it on smooth brush, but smooth won't actually increase the topology. So like or sometimes it will increase topology, I think. So it's a bit random. Maybe I just don't get it yet. So I was looking at some photos of the bottom part of the skull. It's actually super intricate. There's a lot of structures going on there. There are. I kind of got the shape of the skull more or less correct at first, and then I was just really checking the reference, redoing bits here and there, then checking the reference again. I bet there is more to Blender Sculpting than all the kind of default tools I'm using, so I will try to experiment and see what I can achieve. And that clothing brush that I used later just to create the drapes around the skull, actually really impressive when you do wrinkles. So I have used it here just out of, it didn't get recorded, but out of curiosity I did wrinkles on the forehead, and it looks really like the skin, like it looks really good. So it like a huge boost, a huge help for adding wrinkles. I use this feel brush. Feel is a bit funny, like looks almost like a flattened brush. Behaves got a bit of its own dynamics. So eyebrows, I'm really quite complex, and took me more time to get over with. Here I skipped a little bit, and so I can see the skull is a bit more smooth. But it really is the same process. You just look at the reference and draw. I myself, I'm fairly used to deal with just one level of subdivision, so I'm not sure if, well, obviously in ZBrush, that jumping up and down the subdivision levels is the really super common thing to do. Since I've been doing a lot of stuff in 3D code where that's, jumping through subdivision levels is also uncommon, and kind of started to get used to just sculpting on one level of subdivision. And I find it, I'll try to explore it here. I think here I ended up just, if I needed to smooth something out, and I would just drop the Dyntopo resolution, and then I would just simplify the mesh, down from like 50,000 triangles in one area down to like 2,000, and then I would smooth it again, and then you get a smooth version of that part. Again, just discovering some Blender sculpting for the first time for myself. So I'm not using any like reference images here to follow, like like left, front, top of the skull, and that's just so. For me personally, it is a sculpting exercise. So I want to practice memorizing the shapes a bit more, just like anatomy study, and I don't want to just repeat uh, something I just put in front of me, which I would have done if I needed to get this stuff done really quickly. And you can see here, I'm just looking at different views again on my my second screen, and just reshaping some of the proportions to get some stuff a bit more correct. I haven't used much masking here, so masking here looks fairly decent. I need to I'm like here, really, I don't have any hotkeys to anything, which is obviously a bad thing, a bad habit, and I really need to establish some hotkeys for the tools. The hotkey is kind of a big thing in Blender, since the navigation is different. I need to be very careful where I place the hotkeys. And you can see here I jumped a little bit as well. I did the teeth. Kind of did a lousy job on the teeth, but just like a general math. So what I did is, you can see at the right tab, magnify is set to 1. It was at 0.5 before. So I said magnifying 0.5, we just used the snake hook again to push out the teeth. And then, they all got combined after remesh operation. If I wanted to have perfect teeth, kind of have to model them out really and treat them separately one by one. The end model was fairly simple, not that overly detailed, so I think I really tried to get the lighting working for me to get it looking better, just to hide the simplicity, and I think I kind of managed to do that. And you can always check the triangle count at the bottom right corner, at the where you can also see the version. You can see also the version of the blender. Actually, it took me some time to figure out where the poly count is hiding. I guess I got so used to Maya where you have the poly count at the top left when you display that. I hope that just these videos in general will help more people to start switching to Blender and at least started to try it out and see what they can do. Because it's for modeler and texture, definitely a Blender is better than Maya, in my opinion. More powerful and just better. For animator, I'm not that sure. Uh, well, yeah, give it a try. Do a little sculpt. Here I am setting up, I wanted to do some seams of the skull, which we all have. And I used this pinch brush or whatever that brush is. And again, looking at the reference to see where the skull gets divided. Also, this model is pretty much fully symmetrical. Again, something I kind of want to avoid doing. But I was kind of lazy as well, so I only did a little bit of a symmetry work, but it's a tiny bit. So ideally, I want to introduce asymmetry and a fair amount of it. You can see the dynamic topology is set at a fairly low detail size on the right at 3 pixels. So, and kind of this seems actually really much more intricate than what I'm drawing right now. It could have been set at like 1 pixel or less. I actually turned off symmetry when I was doing the top seam on top of the head because that is completely asymmetrical. So this bit is quite important that I did. That's where one of the major muscles gets attached, just behind your ear, and I don't remember the name of the muscle. I try to memorize the muscles, but I keep forgetting them. It just never sticks around your memory too long. And this is a pretty much fairly finished model. Only a few touches are left. Adding some noise here and there. So I guess thank you all everybody for watching, and let's see you in the next video.